Hero Club presents Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. This is Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu, episode 27. I am one of your hosts, Wheelchair 21, the Common Roller, and joining me is Janitor Joker in his final form as President Kaixa.
I have reached perfection. I am the greatest. Everybody knows it. And, fuck all of you.
Damn right. The iconic fuck all of you, or fuck 'em all, his statement that he always likes to say in almost every podcaster and off the call. But, however, you know, since this episode is technically going to be the final part of Godzilla Timelines, which we'll get to later in this episode, starting off this entire episode is actually going to be our guest Visibleninja joining us for the entire freaking show!
That's right, I'm stuck here. I'm like a really dug-in tick.
He really is, but this time he's here for the entire show.
Actually, we turned Metal into a cripple as well. He can't leave. He's just trapped here.
I'm pretty close to it already.
He's like that one episode where Joe and Family Guy got melted to the cement.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and you had to fight off the giant rat.
Except more Canadian.
Yeah, it's not just a giant
Pretty
rat.
much.
It's a giant moose and bear.
I thought we were a mercin squirrel.
But yeah, no, this episode's going to be interesting because, one, our lit list this week has some interesting Tamashi news. We have G-Fest news, X8 ratings, as well as Kaixa Day news, people! Kaixa Day! Motherfucking Kaixa Day! And then we go into our goddamn Godzilla Timelines Millennium Era, which, Jesus Christ, it's gonna be hectic.
It's gonna be LIT.
Now, I will say this from the start, people.
Name drop.
I will say this from the start. One, technically, we will not really be talking about the 98 film in depth, even though it does take place or is connected to one of our films directly, technically, by Easter egg mention. We will not be talking about the Legendary Pictures film, because even though it is technically in the Millennium Era, it's in its own universe, which is Monsterverse, and Shin Godzilla, even though it also is technically in the Millennium Era, is also discounted from the main core Millennium Era, due to the fact that it only goes from Godzilla 2000 to Godzilla Final Wars, and Shin is in its own kind of, like, timeline. Like, they're all separate shits. We're not really going to talk about them. But first off, let's go to our goddamn news, hosted by President Kaixa himself.
So anyway, we got some figure art news, everybody. First up on the list is Kamen Rider Brave Legacy Gamer Level 100. Official figure art has been announced. It's set for a March 2018 release, and pre-orders start now, so get it while you can. So, I haven't watched X8 Wheels, so tell me all about Kamen Rider Brave Legacy Gamer Level 100.
I swear to God. I swear to fucking God, I told you not to do this in this episode. I told you not to do this. Alright, even though this is a trope with him, since he's not watched X8, Legacy Gamer is pretty much a reskin of the Legacy Gamer Level 50 form that was seen as Hero's alternate universe in the video game verse. And then they were like, oh no, I'm going to turn it into your legit level 100 form. And, you know, it's a nice, cool, elegant white form, has a nice, brilliant cape, and it looks all badass and amazing. However, like we said, he had to get it by, you know, working for the bad guy for like 5 to 6 episodes, and then he turned on the bad guy when he realized he was being a dumb dick. And, you know, now we have this figure art, which unlike, you know, other previous recent day figure art releases, which have a nice fabrically made cloth cape, this one here is just hard plastic like the Eternal one, and that means it's kind of going to be shit.
So anyway, the price range for this figure art is 6,480 yen, which is about $60.
That's not including shipping and handling. So if you're interested and want to pre-order, go right ahead. Just don't ask me to pay for it for you, because I don't like you guys. Next up on the lit list is
the figure art for a blind man in a show called Kamen Rider Amazon Season 2. I mean, it's actually Kamen Rider Amazon Alpha from Season 2 with his eyes glazed over because he's blind as a bat. So that's that's something new. I think it's just like a remodeled version with just some scars on him and the white eyes.
Exactamundo.
It's pre-orders are set up for now. It's set for a February 2018 release, and its starting price is about 5,940 yen, which is about another less than $60.
So there's that. That should be fun for all you Amazon fans out there, or people who just like red guys that are blind. I mean,
there is the Daredevil.
Yeah, there is Daredevil. You want Daredevil? You want a Daredevil in rider form? This is probably not it. But something in between, maybe. Kind of. I don't know. Now for the best one. This is the best news of all time, because I love it. Because it's from the best Godzilla movie of all time. From Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, we got S.H. Monster Arts of Space Godzilla and Little Godzilla special color versions, baby. What special color versions? It means they have better colors or some shit like that. It's set for a February 2018 release, and pre-orders also start now. And its price is just a tad bit more than our Figuarts. You know, that's what was it? 14,904 yen, which is about $130 more. And yeah, so that's something interesting. Any of you guys gonna get it?
Nope.
Are you saying you don't have the money medal? Are you saying you don't?
Or that I already have the original releases of those two, and versions with slightly more vibrant color schemes and like one more like effect part. Yeah, no, just no. Like if you don't already have them, then this is like a good way to get them. But like if you're like me and you already have Little and Space Godzilla, you're like, nah, no es bueno.
What about you, Wheelz?
I just really want Legacy Gamer, but the thing is, at this moment, I cannot just straight up go and be like, hey man, I'm gonna go pre-order this, because I can pre-order almost everything out there. I can't really do that this time around, due to the fact that I, have shit I want to do next year, like the Trip of Trips, as long as, Oga doesn't go and off himself.
But come on, Wheelz, it's Little Godzilla and Space Godzilla. What
Fuck him.
Yeah, that's my line, you son of a bitch.
I'll go cry to Miles Morales.
I can't. He's not canon anymore in my world.
Good. That's great. It's amazing. Who needs him?
The only canon Spider-Man is actually the Emissary from Hell. He's the only
That's the only true Spider-Man. Exactly.
So anyway, before we get to the best news of all time, the news that is so good that it would make your girlfriend orgasm and your husbando not orgasm. Maybe. I don't know. We got news about G-Fest, the 25th anniversary guest. Megumi Adaka is going to be there. And for people who don't know, she played Miki in the Heisei Godzilla films, from Biollante to Destroya.
It's about time that she kind of crawled out of whatever hole she was hiding in Japan. Because, shit, it's been like forever since we've seen her. And, God, she's... like, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but she did age quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Like I don't want to sound like, I'm being an asshole or anything, but, like, it's true. I mean,
it's true. You can't
I mean, if you look how she looked in Space Godzilla, which was 95, and then, now it's...
It's been 20 years.
I know, but...
by the 20 years, Ray.
I don't mean that.
She's 40 now, man. She's 40, but she looks older than she should be.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like some people age more gracefully than others, and obviously the years were not really kind to her. But either way, it's great that she's finally going to be at a convention, let alone G-Fest. So
this should be her second time ever, which the last time was I think like G-Fest 10 or 11. I'd have to go double check to be exact. Because, I know for a fact that, like, there's other actors who've been there consecutively, and she hasn't been one of them, as we all know. Superman.
Yeah, but again, it's good to see her, coming this way again, especially because, we can get our stuff signed by Miki herself and her giant ears. Well, hey, if all else fails, there's always her bullshit psychic powers.
No, they faded, remember? Japan has this weird belief that as you get older, they disappear on you.
And then once they disappear, you can finally get married and all that other womanly shit.
You know what women should do.
Well, by Japanese standards, that's what they think.
Yeah.
And by my standards, yes.
Oh, get out of here, President Kaixa.
Anyway, speaking of Kaixa, speaking of the GOAT of all time, we have the official pre-order page for the complete selection modification Kaixa gear, the greatest belt to ever exist, even though it's clearly the most evil belt in the Fies universe. Once you hear it go, starting bar.
Actually, no, the most evil one is the Orga driver, or the Orga belt, or the Orga gear, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Fuck it, it's Kiba. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, it is Kiba. He killed Time Pink. He killed Time Pink!
Which, again, I'm still having the canon, and that's actually the Time Ranger
universe.
Yeah,
it's the Time Ranger universe, and this is the Yuri of the past, like her great ancestor.
Yeah, it all makes sense. She gave up her child before she got killed, because that's how Fies works. That's something a Fies plot would be. I'm not shitting you, man. That's a Fies plot.
And there would be rivers all around. It literally be like Flyleaf. I can hear you all around me, but instead of I can hear you, it's rivers are all around me, circling and they're breaking.
So the Kaixa complete selection modification gear comes with the Kaixa driver, the Kaixa blade gun.
Is it actually called the driver in Fies at that point, or was it just still called the Fies gear and the Fies belt? Like I still get that.
I think it was called the Kaixa gear.
The way it works nominally is the phones themselves are referred to as the drivers, whereas the belts and like the
gears,
all the like equipment are considered like collectively as the gear. So like the phone itself is the driver, but the belt and everything else is the gear. You know what I mean?
That was the issue I've been having debates about with people, because it's not actually called, I believe, a driver in the series. I don't think we did. Like, when's the first time we ever hear driver be named on show? Like when's the first time something was actually called driver? Wasn't it like a decade?
Yeah, I think so, because otherwise they kind of don't refer to the belts by name in the show, like, ever.
So it comes with the cell phone, the Kaixa blade gun, the blade parts, the Kaixa pointer, the Kaixa shot holder, and the Kaixa leg gear, which, again, the most hilarious way to introduce it, came from a fucking ceiling, just out of nowhere, while he was in school. His dad was like, "Here you go, kid. Here's a present for you." And he's just like, "Thanks, Dad. I can finally ride or kick people." The Kaixa belt also comes with 70 newly recorded phrases by Kohei Murakami, who played Kusaka, everybody's favorite rider villain. Also known as the guy who played Bird in Zyuohger, for all you other people who don't know.
70 new phrases of him stalking Mari.
I mean,
the weird thing is there's actual promotional images of showing the other cast members with him hanging out with the gear, so I think they're actually recording the other people's lines in it too.
You never know.
I mean, he wasn't friends with anybody in the show, so I don't get it. But whatever. I didn't make the belt. Anyway, the gear will also come with 3 background music features: Kaixa Overwhelming Power, Side Basher, and Ego Eyes Glazing Over, which was the third ending theme to the Fies show. And that's the one where mostly Kaixa is just using it when he's fighting and beating the shit out of people. Ironically, the first time we hear it is when he becomes Delta, which isn't related to the Kaixa gear at all.
Which, honestly, would not surprise me if that was the next CSM. So
I mean,
I'd be kind of pissed since, that's the one henshin device I got for free in the Gigabox a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
I know you had to fix it, but yeah, still.
I mean, who doesn't want to walk
It fucking works.
camcorder? It works. It can record people while I'm peeping on them, and I can walkie-talkie my friend. Anyway, the complete selection Kaixa gear is available for pre-orders on Kaixa Day, and those pre-orders will end November 13th at 11 p.m. Well, not our time, but Japan time. And its release date is sometime in March in 2018, with a price at 48,600 yen, which is about more than $400.
Oh, it's an
So,
interesting thing that supposedly the gear actually sold out, and they had to like restock like pre-orders for the item. Like their actual system immediately like sold out like the stock, and they're like, shit, that means we're gonna have to open up more orders.
are you saying their eyes were glazing over?
Yeah, like I don't think they were expecting such a huge turnout for
Yeah,
pre-orders for the item.
for how utterly insanely expensive the set is, they were apparently crushed with orders. And I'm just saying, like, for this much, I better be able to punch in 3821 and be able to summon myself a Jet Sliger. I'm just saying.
I mean, it has to. It has to. With that kind of money.
Just anywhere in the world, punch it in, and then one just appears.
With that kind of money you're spending on it, might as well get the entire.
Well, I mean,
vehicle.
like the blade gun alone is probably most of that cost. So
Probably.
because that thing is huge. So
Recall, what is it? 87 centimeters is the blade length attached to the actual blade gun.
yeah, like I said, that thing is just it's like even the toy was like obviously the toy wasn't to scale and it isn't 1-to-1 like this is, but like Jesus.
Amato.
Tatakai and shit.
Tatakai Yunai Yusunai.
Man, if I had money, I still probably won't buy it.
He's lying. He'd still buy it.
You're right. You're right.
Of
You're
course.
right. I'm lying. I would buy it in an instant just to fuck with people. Go to cons as Kusaka, stalking people, fucking with their lives.
With that evil grin.
But you already fuck with people's lives. I mean, look at this podcast. You're fucking with the people who listen to it.
Anyway, besides the belt, there's also other news such as X8's final ratings average, which shocked Wheelz to the core.
Shocked me as well as the rest of the internet. We were like, what?
So, yeah. X8 finished with lower ratings than Ghost. It finished lower ratings than Go Busters. It had a 3.95%. That's a 1.15% drop in ratings for Rider.
And the funny thing is like, as me and Mucha and Visibleninja were talking about in the pre-show, was that, like, it seemed illogical. Like, we know the international fans loved it, and they don't account to the score. But, like, when I was looking at the people I follow that are Japanese fans as well, all they speak is practically Japanese, unless they're, like, on a Skype call, weirdly enough. They were saying, oh, them and their friends all love the show, it's really doing good, the toy sales are doing good. But viewing sales was, like, ass, and I guess, like, Japan maybe doesn't add in how viewings are with, like maybe DVRs and streaming it on whatever streaming services or syndications. Like, when they say, oh, watch us again on Friday afternoons or Friday nights. I feel like they don't add that to the overall scores of how many those episodes get in the initial week, and it's the actual viewing of when it actually airs at their, designated slot. And I think that's what's killing the show, is that they only, add in the first episode runtime and not like the repeat, which I know that's what you're supposed to do, but I think they're not also, like as we were saying, adding in the actual freaking, what do you call it, DVRs, right? Like, you could agree with me, they're probably not like including the DVR sales or whatever.
Yeah, they're
like,
probably not
DVR
including
sales,
a lot
but
of
the DVR recordings, I should say, of the plays.
It's probably not the inclusion of any of the other alternative ways to watch the show.
And as a result, wouldn't that overall hurt your product if you're not including all the medians in which it's being viewed?
Here's the problem with Toei. They haven't learned from Tsuburaya, apparently, where they should just go to like a video distribution center, like Crunchyroll, to broadcast their stuff. I mean, maybe.
What do you mean, like they're not learning to, in a sense, like start getting more shows streamed, like archive streams, like out, like internationally, or just even in their own home country?
Both.
Because I know, like, some Sentais are available on their version of Netflix, like their Netflix, but like I heard, like, not the whole archive, where like Ultraman is like slowly like throwing up like the entire archive straight on their services, like on Netflix services for Japan.
Toei's in an interesting rut.
Like, I heard the issue really is, and this is the thing that Visibleninja once told me, was that they have a bullshit, like, syndication fee where they have to pay every individual actor like a fee just to re-air episodes, like each episodes rather than just re-air the series. Like there's like an actual bullshit deal where like if they wanted to do like a greatest hits compilation like marathon where like viewers voted in episodes, they would have to then find each of the actors and pay them like some kind of like syndication fee, and that's what supposedly causes an issue with them distributing their own programs. Like I heard like that's an old wives' tale, but no one's ever confirmed if that is wrong or right.
Damn syndication deals.
I don't
So what do
know
you
the
feel about
dexterity,
the-
but it just sounds very weird that it did so bad when, on the internet it was doing so good, not just internationally, but I mean by its home audience.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Because this makes me feel like Build has no hope.
No hope. Are you saying that we need to get Wizard on this?
Well, on September 22nd, we will have a new hope, since, we're getting a sequel in Good Morning Call, and he'll have a new show to star in.
That's all I think we have for this week.
Yeah, that's literally all we have now, because we have to go into our goddamn show known as Godzilla Timelines, the Millennium Era, where, ironically, the Millennium Era is practically a majority of these films are all freaking divergent timelines that only are sequels to the 54 film, pretty much. And other movies may be tied to these films in their canon, like the Kiryu Saga, and that's about it. Like, the Kiryu Saga has the 54 film and other Showa classics tied to them, whereas every other film in the Millennium Era is just a direct sequel to 54 in some frickin' regards. And the only reason the Millennium Era started was due to the fact that the 98 film bombed so bad, they were like, well, if the Y2K thing is the end of the world, let's make one more Godzilla film before 2000 hits, and thus we get Godzilla 1999, aka Godzilla 2000. And in this film, somehow, Godzilla's been just trucking along ever since the 54 attacks. And they don't really establish that it is a direct sequel to 54, but they kind of say it's just a loose sequel to 54. And that Godzilla's been around for, 40-odd number of years, just trucking around, destroying Japan. He'll show up, he'll leave, he'll show up, he'll leave, he'll screw stuff up. And in the meantime, a weird Godzilla organization of, people that want to kind of just research Godzilla exist. And they're kind of like, the bar none real weird, PETA freaks, where at this time, the head of the organization is a bum played by the guy from Godzilla vs. Mothra, a weird news reporter that's following him around to get a good story, and his daughter. And at the same time, his old former friend now turned his enemy and rival, Katagiri, who's played by the badass Hiroshi Abe. If you never heard of him, go check him up. He's amazing. Is, running something for the government where he's researching a weird alien freaking vessel that's fossilized under the ocean while also trying to kill Godzilla. His colleague, who is another friend of the two, they're their third wheel of this friendship, of this trinity, is the one who's actually doing the excavation of this goddamn fossilized freaking UFO. The UFO awakens. It comes back, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna take over the Earth. But I need to find out what's the dominant species. Oh, that's mankind. But there's one dominant beast on here that is fucking up mankind and could fuck me up, known as Godzilla. So I'm going to create a clone called Orga, which is going to try to absorb Godzilla and take on its form. And then pretty much Godzilla wipes that shit out, has a badass, face-off with Katagiri, where Katagiri's like, yo, Godzilla, could I have your autograph? And he's like, yeah, here, man. Splat! Kills that motherfucker, then blows up the entire city, and you're just left with going, what the fuck did I just watch? However, if you watch the original Japanese version, you're in for a bore fest. If you watch the dub, it's incredible! So, Visibleninja, what's your brief thoughts on Godzilla 2?
It's like crap through a goose.
My God, that's an appropriate comparison, sir. I think you've cracked the code.
No, but really, yeah, I definitely agree with you, Wheelchair. The dub is just fantastic because I've seen it in both, and in the original, it's kind of a very dry, kind of typical Godzilla fare kind of thing. But yeah, the dub definitely spices things up by make it feel like we're back in the late 60s, early 70s with some of the crappy English dubs to come out of Hong Kong. Thank you, Sandy Frank. But yeah, this movie is definitely one of the better ones of the Millennium Era. Even though Plot-wise, it's kind of, standard fare for Godzilla. I mean, he's just, wandering around wrecking shit like he's, liking to do. He is a monster after all. But then, the whole alien thing and with the millennials and, with the looming Y2K kind of conspiracy, which is why they're called the millennials. Surprise, surprise. Look like giant Mars aliens from Metal Gear, which is kind of weird, but hey, whatever, they're giant invisible electro tendrils and everything, kind of, giving our.
It's like a poor
computer
man's
systems
Dagora.
I was going to say giving our computer systems a good raping, but basically, yeah. The human drama is it's not the best, but the ones in the Godzilla movies rarely are. But it's pretty serviceable. I mean, you got the dad and his daughter. You got reporter lady who likes saying ass and crap, and of course, Godzilla, which is probably one of the best endings to a Godzilla movie I've seen. Not to mention the final fight with Orga, which is pretty cool. And Orga is an interesting idea for like the first kind of new kaiju of this new era. But ultimately, he does kind of go down like a chump and isn't exactly a fan favorite. So
goes down like a chump, but goes down epically like a chump.
Well, yeah, he gets blown up from inside, which is still pretty cool. But he's not. There's not too much love for him in the fan base, based on like what I can see. So,
well, they're going to enjoy him in Godzilla Monster Planet.
Like, here's the best way to explain it: Orga's fan base died out like shortly after the film, or after the Godzilla, first games, like the trilogy of Save the Earth, Unleashed, and Melee died off. Like, he was really popular with those games, but then afterwards, everyone was like, fuck him.
But ultimately, in my opinion, like, it's a pretty solid movie. It's kind of a good foot to start this new era off on. I mean, it's a good kind of traditional Godzilla fare, and the English dub definitely helps elevate what's otherwise a fairly dry and kind of bog standard Godzilla movie. So that's basically what I think of Millennium.
All right, Mucha, you, Millennium, now.
All right, so here's the thing about Godzilla 2000 / Millennium. I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's an appropriate movie, or I guess a welcome movie after what happened with 1998. It's kind of like that movie didn't really represent Godzilla or really show off what it means, what Godzilla is. This movie kind of shows him off, kind of shows what he represents and what he means, in that he's like this majestic, almost divine being himself that is sort of like nature's message to us. And it's gonna fuck us over if we don't listen to him. The dub is just funny as shit, though. Not gonna lie. It is a hilarious dub. Cause when you hear a person talk about goose shit, you know it's gonna be great. I like some of the music cues from the dub too. That was pretty great too.
Some of like the additional score that was added from Sony actually does work with the film. It's a nice contrast with the Akira Ifukube, as well as the additional composer for the Japanese score that wasn't using, just all of Ikufube's original tracks for the film. I felt like it really brought a lot of depth, and it gave the actual film a lot of life, because there's certain elements that I like and there's certain elements I don't like, and I think that no matter what, I still will watch the dub over the sub, due to not just nostalgia, but the overall easier time to enjoy it. Because, there are a few Godzilla films where I watch them in their original audio, and they actually put me out like a light. Like, immediately out like a light. But, it's good, it's great, but then we go on to, a really, really effed up Godzilla movie. It's a movie where...
You mean the best Godzilla movie, right?
It's the best if you're asking to commit suicide. That's the best way to analyze this film.
So it's the seppuku movie.
It kind of is, because we're gonna...
the seppuku, the Sudoku movie.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna be talking about Godzilla X Megaguirus, or Godzilla versus Megaguirus, Godzilla against Megaguirus, whatever is the proper title. I don't really give a rat's
Godzilla
ass.
versus the black hole.
Pretty much. This film is kind of stupid. It elaborates that Godzilla appears in 54, he appeared again in the 60s, then he appeared again in the 90s, and he's kind of bumming around Japan, trying to look for like a source of nuclear fission to live off of. In the meantime, Japan's kind of creating new technology to try to fight Godzilla, and one of these ideas is to create a black hole. When they test out the black hole, it ends up creating a fucking wormhole that unleashes the freaking Mega Nula from Rodan. And in this version, they're based on their actual, real, designs of being like dragonflies and other type of insectoid creatures, not weird caterpillar larvae, like they're actual full-on ferocious kind of we fuck shit up kind of praying mantis fucking weird dragonfly things. And they're super mutated due to bullshit and other reasons, and they come through to the present day, and they want to kill Godzilla just because they see him as a threat and as a power source, where Godzilla's just like, the fuck are you guys, and why should I care what you're doing here? I just want to eat. Just leave me alone. And it leads to a giant battle where eventually, they use the black hole and they get rid of Godzilla, or so they think, because there's the whole, Easter egg ending like a Marvel film, where you find out he just found the wormhole somehow in the past, and trucked his way back through to the present day, right in front of the kid's school. Because, oh yeah, there's a weird kid subplot in the film that no one really gave a fuck about.
Just like most human plots in these movies. I guess I'll go first with Megaguirus. No, I'll just say up front, I don't hate this as much as most fans do, but I do agree it is probably the weakest of the Millennium era, just because the human drama, which is normally not really what you watch a Godzilla movie for, but even for a Godzilla movie, it's just not very interesting and is kind of boring. The whole thing with this big government project with a bunch of, sciencey people trying to build a black hole gun, or the Dimension Tide, which is actually a way more awesome name than it really should be. And the whole bullshit with female soldier lady and, weird techie guy. It's just not, it just doesn't grip you. I do not really give a shit about these guys, and I don't care if he's awkwardly trying to ask her out. I really just do not care.
Doesn't help that the main chick is not sexually appealing whatsoever.
And again, I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but I do kind of agree is that and I just didn't feel any chemistry between the actors either, because it just there was just nothing there. I mean, there was the kaiju action, obviously, which actually wasn't too bad, especially the final showdown against Megaguirus out front of fake TV Tokyo.
With the body slam of a generation.
Yeah,
it literally turns into a goddamn Pokemon battle.
Pretty much. But yeah, that part is arguably the best part of the movie, and it is actually pretty decent, but the rest of the movie just kind of doesn't make up for it. It just kind of feels weak, in comparison to other, not even just other Millennium era movies, just Godzilla movies in general. It just feels kind of like weak sauce.
I mean, that perfectly kind of describes it. It's plain, I guess, is the word you want to look for. Plain,
it doesn't even
ordinary,
feel plain. It doesn't even feel like it's a natural Godzilla
uninspired
film. Yeah. It just... it makes Hedorah look like a more competent Godzilla film.
Oh, jeez.
These are facts. It makes Hedorah, Megalon, more competent than Megaguirus. Megaguirus has maybe, 3 actual defining scenes.
I think it's more like those Hedorah and Megalon are more entertaining to watch, because there's some sort of charm to them, where Megaguirus is too uninspired and generic that there's really nothing to really find any charm in.
Yeah, I think
the final fight where Godzilla body slams the shit out of her.
I'll say this, and this is gonna sound really funny, but I think the biggest problem with the final product is the fact that Megaguirus is the queen, but I feel even though she was sort of stronger than Godzilla due to her speed, I still feel like they should have had maybe some of the colony drones attacking them, so it's similar to Legion almost, where Legion was so big it still could hold its own against Gamera, but it had the colonial soldiers attacking him to try to hold him down, so it would have a chance to actually have a true fight with Gamera, because Gamera would just keep walking towards it and getting closer and closer. And even though Legion was strong on its own right, Gamera could still do enough damage to it over time, because it really had no real defense, you know what I'm saying? Megaguirus should have had a part of its hive, its swarm, still active in the final fight, I felt like.
I see. Makes sense.
It sounds like a more realistic struggle if he had to deal with the swarm as well as a giant fucking dragonfly that can go supersonic.
I think you're just described one of the bigger problems of the film is that like nothing really feels as connected or flows smoothly. Like the whole conflict between Mechagodzilla and Godzilla is rather a farce.
It's all forced. It's like it's like Megaguirus is like almost cognitive where it knows, oh shit, this is my enemy, but Godzilla's like, who's
Who
this?
the fuck are you?
Yeah, like it doesn't even acknowledge freaking Megaguirus as even really being there except when it's attacking it. It's like that's the only time it's like, damn, I gotta fight this thing. I never had to fight anything.
Godzilla does seem like he's like, shit, another one? God damn it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, I think that's the thing, is like, it's one of those ones where Godzilla's just like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, we're supposed to fight.
I don't think I hate it, like, as much as the other people in the fandom, but I can definitely see why it's not loved, or even liked, or even okayed. There's not a lot to it.
Like, it's funny, because when I first saw it the first time, when I watched it back-to-back, when they premiered this movie with our next movie, GMK, I actually liked this one more than GMK initially, but as time went on, it was the reverse. It was like the adverse. I was like, yeah, nah, this movie garbage, and GMK superior.
Man.
But speaking of, GMK, let's talk about this clusterfuck of a movie, because even as we said the other night and in pre-production, this movie is a little hectic where it's well loved while also being well hated. It's like the Shin Godzilla effect during its time. It was a very divisive fan loved or fan hated film. It still is as of today. And one of the reasons it's because we get, great director of the Gamera trilogy, Shizuke Kaneko, which is ironic because I have Gamera Guardian of the Universe on in the background while we do this podcast, as the director and one of the co-writers and producers of this film, called Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah. Originally, he wanted to have it that Godzilla fought a lot of his old favorite classic kaiju like Varan and Gearus and Baragon, but they were like, you're making it so easy for Godzilla to ruffle stomp all these kaiju that we need you to actually use more iconic kaiju to make it look logical in that Godzilla has like some kind of foil to, I guess you could say, build off of some foil to, explain his conquest, I guess, of what he's supposed to be. And at the same time, in this version, they explain Godzilla as being like a supernatural demonic entity due to the Pacific conflict aspect of World War II. And the thing is, they kind of just say this is a thing. They don't really kind of go further into it, and they just say that there's a lot of spiritual, natural shit that is now awakening to stop Godzilla because, this time Godzilla's too goddamn strong that not even, Japan can defeat it. And in the meantime, one of the survivors of the original Godzilla attack is now an admiral, and his daughter is chasing the story of this supernatural thing because one of the ghosts is kind of helping her figure out how to save Japan from bullshit logic. And it's a fun movie, it's a good movie. Some of the cosmetic and suit designs are, like I say, very divisive to the fandom, to like a lot of people, but it's really unique and different. And I think one of the things we argued about is just the fact that you specifically hate it, Mucha, only because Godzilla is depicted as like this cognitive demon, but yet I explained it as there's issues that contradict it, where I feel like the only issue was the direction of the character of Godzilla in this film, on top of him being a pure, natural, true villainous Godzilla.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of GMK. Like, it just never appealed to me. As one of the reasons being is, as you said, the unsympathetic look at Godzilla, and just how blatantly villainous he is to the point of not caring what happens or what he does in the movie. Because when I want to watch a Godzilla movie, I want to enjoy what I'm watching on screen. And for me, it was kind of hard to enjoy watching Godzilla on screen in the sense of, oh, he's just there to, like, slaughter people, and that's all he's really doing.
No, like, here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. There's only a few times I got that vibe from Godzilla in the past, and I think that's also poor direction of how they had, the suit actors directing the character too.
Yeah.
Because you and me talked about it in pre-production that the issue was like when you look at certain movies like say Godzilla versus Mothra, like he's yeah, he's acting like a mysterious creature like we said, like a drunk knight at Vegas, but there's parts where he's literally just like walking through shit when he could have obviously walked around it. He was just like knocking shit over just to fucking knock shit over, like he was in a bad mood coming home from work, like the Yankees lost against the Boston Red Sox, like some bullshit like that.
He got woken up and he was just tired, man.
Another thing is
like a giant thing, like, and he's just all pissed off.
Yeah, that's the thing is I feel like there's sometimes bipolar direction of how they want Godzilla to be on screen. Like you say, this Godzilla is a little bit too villainous, but at the same time, I think it worked with the aesthetic of like the supernatural realm. But I felt like, as we stated, they should have done a little bit more exploration of explaining how he became a supernatural entity, because it kind of made no sense that an H-bomb did magical stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't like the movie never really made it super clear if Godzilla was actually literally the spirits of the people from World War II, or just figuratively the spirits of everybody from World War II.
And that's literally the biggest issue.
Also, the let's face it, this movie's basically Godzilla versus Gamera.
It kind of is, and it's not at the same time. It's a very interesting aspect. But Visibleninja, let's hear your take on this.
Okay, GMK is definitely a bit of a different take on Godzilla, one we've never had before, and well, possibly you might never ever get it. Whether or not that's a good or a bad thing, obviously, is up to you. But it's definitely the darkest Godzilla film yet, and that's kind of held by the fact that, like you guys mentioned, Godzilla is pretty much an out-and-out demon. Like, he is literally just full-on evil, and this is the first really, inescapably demonic evil Godzilla we got, which is kind of helped by his, dead, vacant, pupilless eyes, which kind of really helped put that across. As well as his kind of design that's sort of evocative of the original, but if it was kind of, drag kicking and screaming into the modern era, which is weirdly appropriate if you consider what he's supposed to represent. But overall, yeah, unlike Mega Gears, this one actually had decent human actors, human drama, which actually wasn't half bad. Plus, the mystical spiritual stuff wasn't absurd. It was still sort of typical kind of kaiju movie kind of insanity, but it felt a little more real, I think is the weird word for it. But
it switches from being real to being a little too supernaturally, because
they
don't know what the fuck they're doing with it.
It is a little too mystical, but it fits in this world that this movie exists in. It kind of sort of works, if you know what I mean. This is one of my favorites, but I could definitely I wouldn't argue with somebody if they didn't like it, because it is, like I said, a very different flavor of Godzilla.
Here's the funny thing.
I think
the me that, like I said, hated it when I first saw it was on Mucha's I guess side of the spectrum. But as I got older, I started seeing a lot of the reasons, the production value of, or what Kaneko himself wanted to actually do with the film, that I understood it better. But I felt like the problem is that the film doesn't, it fully explore the depth of what needed to be done, per se, to help make it realistic. Where, with Gamera, they explain, oh yeah, he's created by the lost civilization of Mu to fucking fight the Gauss. We found this on these tablets, these weird tablets with these weird runestone language. But in this one, it just says, Godzilla is a demon. And it's okay, could you go a little further? I know
Godzilla is a demon, as Dr. Shinigami explains.
Yeah, I think the only issue with this film is that they try to go off if you've seen the original 54 film, they try to say that he's a monster off the coast of Odo Island, but they don't even try to alliterate that in this film. And I think that's the flaw, is they expect you to have seen 54 and go into this production. So only a diehard fan would get that little bit of the little little cue to the old bullshit of that Godzilla actually is some ancient dragon thing living off the coast of a small island called Odo Island.
You made me laugh thinking like it's like a Facebook post or saying like only true fans would know this Godzilla.
It kind of feels like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, because they kind of get you that bullshit where it's like they don't even acknowledge Odo Island except when they show photographs of Odo Island, but they never refer to the legend of Odo Island anywhere in the film. Like, I don't recall Deca Gold talking about it. I don't recall fucking Kamen Rider Gal talking about it. I don't recall Watanabe's wife talking about it. I don't recall Deca Gold's, father in the film talking about it. I don't remember Dr. Shinigami talking about it, No one addresses the fact...
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, that, like, how is he explained to be a demon? They just say he's the collective mass of souls, but they don't explain how they did it. Unlike
and I think that's
how Gamera
another problem. Another problem I had is that they never really dived into the spirits and why we should care about their anger. Like, they just expect us to buy into us not understanding what they're angry about. They just have this simple explanation and that's it. It's just a throwaway line.
It is kind of a really huge throwaway line that they've maybe throw away at least 3 times throughout the film, but they never explore the depth. And I think that's where we're all agreeing is probably its real truest flaw is the depth of the supernatural element of Godzilla and not necessarily like the elements of the guardian beasts of Japan. Like, we believe they're magic.
Like, speaking of which, like, I wish I got more from the Guardian Beast as well, just so we can understand, like, what they fully represent, because they just kind of exist as well.
Yeah, like, one of my biggest issues is the fact that, like, Ghidorah isn't even at full power when he shows up, and he never actually achieves his full form.
Because what is it? They even pulled the whole, what is it, like, Orochi kind of thing with him,
Yeah.
Like, as he grows.
1,000 heads.
But this one only has 3, because he's, like, a juvenile, but he's all we got, so...
Question.
Yeah, you gotta use it.
Question. Would this film have worked better if Ghidorah and Mothra were replaced with Anguirus and Baron?
I think the movie would have been as strong because don't forget, Kaneko had no plans of making them actually being strong kaiju in the first fucking place.
Oh, that's actually kind of a hard one.
Because I know that because of Megaguirus' failure, we were giving Ghidorah and Mothra because they're more marketable.
Well, yeah, they're safer bets, so...
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of a hard one with more obscure kaiju. Like, ultimately, I think the result would have been the same kind of ultimately. But obviously, like, it would have come probably in a slightly different way, but ultimately it would have wound up with Godzilla blowing himself up because he's kind of stupid. But...
Yeah.
He's what do you call it? He's typical, horror film sociopath where he doesn't really acknowledge the pain, he just questions it.
He doesn't realize, ow, this hurts. I'll try it again. Ow, that really hurt. Third time's a charm. Kaboom.
And then his heart's still beating, and then you're like, wait, so was he a spirit or not? Explain to me.
Damn it, movie, I need to know this.
It's funny. It's like, so he's a spirit. Are you sure? Then we'll explain his beating heart. Fucking no.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, is, like, the only thing I'll argue is that, like, it's the only flaw really with the film is they don't go into the depth of his spiritual side, but they make it plausible for the other, the beasts to be, spiritual, but they don't explain, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's plausible to believe guardian beasts, but Godzilla being a demon was a little harder to grasp because they just said, oh, he is, and just expect you to play along.
Yeah, he's the spirit of everybody from Pearl Harbor or some shit.
Yeah,
okay.
it gets a little crazier than that, but
then how do you explain? Yeah, he's only using radiation attacks.
Yeah, it's very ludicrous. It's very bullshit. There's a few other shits that we'll talk about probably in one day when we actually want to look at GMK. But we got to talk about actual ghosts in the shells, real spirit stories. Right. Since we have
Ghost Godzilla.
Yeah, technically the real version of Ghost Godzilla, which is the Kiryu Saga, which is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, as well as Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, Mothra, Tokyo SOS. Now, the funny thing about this film is, you need to have seen Godzilla, you need to have seen Mothra, technically you need to have seen War of the Gargantuas, which means technically Frankenstein Conquers the World is canon in this universe. And then you have Space Camiba as the true aligned continuity. However, afterwards, when you get to an Easter egg ending, you find out all the other Toho movies are actually slightly more canon as well than you expect due to the fact that their DNA samples are actually displayed in the film. Now, the crazy thing about this is, first off, Godzilla was killed in the Oxygen Destroyer attack in 54. Like, the Sarazawa thing actually happens. He's dead. Now, years later in, 1996, 1997, a new fucking Godzilla shows up. A brand new one shows up. And so they take out the masers to try to stop it. And the masers are kind of actually working due to the fact they're hitting critical areas of Godzilla, like the typical armpit or straight in the face, while it's in a freaking, typhoon. However, main chick protagonist of the film kind of botches and leads to her entire team practically getting killed except for her. And, she gets decommissioned for a while, gets put at a desk job, and eventually, she gets a real job again as being a goddamn soldier when the Kiru Project comes into play. The Kiru Project is taking the bones of the original Godzilla, putting it into a goddamn freaking cyborg metallic mecha suit, and using it to fight Godzilla. However, there's a Ghost in the Shell kind of scenario where, the ghost of Godzilla possesses the mecha and tries to do a crazy thing, so they put some protocols in it so it doesn't freaking work. It has this super weapon called the Absolute Zero Cannon, which turns it to absolute 0 degrees. It's pretty much, crystalline ice dust fragments once you touch it and tap it. And, they eventually have to redeploy Mechagodzilla with these protocols in, and they fight Godzilla, and they actually shoot off the Absolute Zero Cannon. But however, they're underwater, so it doesn't really work right. It just leaves a really bad freaking freezer burn scar on Godzilla. It badly damages Mechagodzilla, and we're left at our cliffhanger. And then we go to literally the year after. Mechagodzilla is being built. Our main protagonist is written out of the freaking film. New characters take over. One of these guys is Gal Red, who is now the veterinarian mechanic of Mechagodzilla. There's this weird bromance as weird romance between the two pilots of Mechagodzilla with Gal Red. It's a weird, very swinger-esh freaking bisexual love story where the one pilot hates Mechagodzilla repairman Gal Red. He hates the pilot, but they have this weird bromance. At the same time, they also maybe have the hots for the female pilot, and it's kind of weird. At the same time, you find out veterinarian Gal Red mecha mechanic dude is the nephew of freaking Shindo of the original Mothra film, and him and his grandson get contacted by freaking, Mothra's newest fairies by saying, hey, Mothra wants you guys to return Mechagodzilla to the goddamn ocean and let it sleep, and it'll defend Japan for you. And they're, kind of debating this stuff at the meantime. However, Godzilla reappears, and Mothra is summoned because Shinjo's own grandson summons Mothra himself. And this leads to Mothra fighting Godzilla. However, Japan's well, Mothra is getting its ass beat, so let's help it by sending out Mechagodzilla, and after we finally defeat Godzilla, we'll put Mechagodzilla to rest, the Kiru system to rest. However, Godzilla actually is strong enough to fight both of these goddamn two behemoths, and Mothra's new egg hatches, releasing two twins to be, a callback to Godzilla vs. Mothra, the original, 64, 63 film. And they come and they help finish off the fight that its mother couldn't finish, and pretty much Mechagodzilla breaks the protocol again and finally crashes Godzilla into the ocean, as well as saves our mechanic who was stuck inside of him the entire freaking time. And then, like I said, there's an Easter egg ending where we find out that there's some weird organization that is cloning kaiju, as well as possibly trying to make more of the goddamn Mechagodzilla project using them, which was intended to be for a third and final film. What was supposed to be the real Final Wars script, but was then altered for the Final Wars, which we'll be talking about very shortly. So, Metal, your thoughts on, both of the Kiru films, the dual films?
Okay, if I had to lump both in together, I would arguably say that this is probably the best of the I almost said Heisei era. I meant the Millennium era when it comes to actual human plots, because they are sort of interconnected. I mean, they are still kind of two movies, though they're all obviously very intricately tied. Pilot Lady in the first one. Like, she definitely has a bit of an arc with the designer and the kid, about overcoming feeling of uselessness and of, dealing with death, which is kind of a deep subject matter there. And of course, she actually does appear in the second one before it's being put on a bus, which actually was nice because they kind of, they could have just written her off screen, but they actually did give her a bit of a send off, which is always nice. And of course, the whole message is again kind of one of those typical kind of Eastern, humans shouldn't touch the world of the dead kind of messages, which you see every now and again. Again, it's not one of the worst kind of cliched, Japanese Eastern plots out there, but it's decent and it's good, of course, to see the fairies back, especially obviously in the second movie. But Kiryu himself is just pure awesomeness. They took an idea that they actually did in Godzilla the Animated Series, which is, dredge up the corpse of the previous Godzilla, strap a bunch of cyber shit to it, and boom, there you go, instant anti-kaiju weapon. Though arguably it worked out probably a little better here than Cyberzilla did in the series, though Cyberzilla actually did look pretty cool, but that's neither here nor there. Other than the whole, it remembering its life somehow and, raging out parts and the whole ghost in the machine thing, kind of like you alluded to earlier. Overall, I really do like these movies, especially, like I said, the first one. The second one still isn't bad, though it's slightly weaker than the first one, I felt. I loved having, Mothra back, the fairies back, the dude from Mothra back too is, again, names escape me, but it's the main guy from Mothra, not the asshole, Rosilica guy, the other one.
Don't forget, there's technically three main characters of Mothra. You have the Bulldog, you have, Shinjo, and then you have Jerry Ito, your antagonist. So, it was Shinjo, I think.
Yeah, Shinjo. Yeah,
or Shinjo. I screwed up the name.
I'm not very good with names, unfortunately. So, yeah, it was good. It was actually good having him back, which again really helps kind of solidify this idea that these movies are almost like a nexus of the Toho universe, because, like you said, they've linked, they explicitly mention Mothra and War of the Gargantuas in the first movie, then other materials and the ending tie together a bunch of other of the non-Godzilla movies, like Rodan, Gorath, Space Amoeba, and Frankenstein Conquers the World, and King Kong Escapes, and it's almost like this is a nexus point, which is kind of interesting considering what the very last movie in the era is, even though it's technically not the last, but we went over that at the beginning. Yeah, but these two movies are honestly pretty damn solid, and I could pop them in almost any time and just watch them. They're pretty damn good to me.
Yeah, the Kiryu saga for me is an interesting saga. I think like Metal, I enjoy them a lot. Enjoy them too, and get entertained by them. The first one, I think, is probably a little bit better because of Akane or something. I think that was her name. And how she's basically trying to get over her feeling of uselessness. And she kind of just has her own death wish because she just doesn't care anymore. Because she feels like she's responsible for the deaths of others. So why should her life be any worth? And then the daughter of the scientist guy is dealing with the loss of her mother, and her sibling, right?
Yeah,
her
unborn sibling or brother or whatever, and she's sort of pissed at her father for trying to choose the kid over the mother or some bullshit like that.
Which didn't matter because they both died.
Yeah, in the end, it doesn't even matter. Shout out to Linkin Park. Yeah, I think that one is a tad bit at least stronger in terms of the human aspect, and I mean, it kind of is just a better version of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla with actual thought put into it.
Yeah, and then also there's another fuck you, the fact that, Gills is in there being a dick.
Gills is best waifu, obviously. that was fun. Gal Red returning in the sequel, great. Veterinarian work didn't work for him, so he became a mechanic, which is basically robotic veterinarianism. But he doesn't see it that way. But, whatever. He was entertaining in the film, I thought. I think the main issue I have with the Kiryu Saga is that it didn't really dive too deep into the whole Ghost in the Shell aspect of itself. Like, it happens once in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and then it happens a little bit in Tokyo SOS. But for the most part, it's Kiryu versus Godzilla, all-out brawl, fight to the death, mano-a-mano, cannon, drill arm, nonsense. Let's just go all out, brother. Which is entertaining.
Yeah,
to watch.
like it's one of those ones where I'll say right now, the second film is a great action masterpiece, but the problem is that I feel like, and this is just gonna be weird, but I feel like it didn't have enough story. It didn't have enough, like, it really was like they did a very cheap ass story so they could get away with doing more action, which they thought maybe for once, maybe if we did act a Godzilla movie that's nothing but kaiju fighting, will get a great reception, because it has happened only a few times in the past. It's only happened actually like a few times where they're like, oh, we'll do this and, we'll get money. And so they thought they could probably, just do straight up, let's fight, fight, fight. And it didn't really work out for them. And that's probably one of the reasons why the third film didn't happen. I know another reason why the third film also didn't happen was the ideal extensive use of needing to make, one, the kaiju suits as well as their mecha counterparts. Since they were planning to do like a giant mecha war versus the kaiju clones of whoever has the DNA who created this Godzilla, because that was supposedly going to be like their idea. Third film was that, oh yeah, this Godzilla awakens and that you find out some like weird government is actually controlling the kaiju and has an army of clones, and now they need an army of mecha clones to fight
Now
the
that would have been
actual
awesome.
ones.
That would have been insane.
Because like
It's too bad.
there is some supposed like concept art of the idea mechas of like Mecha Kumonga, Mecha Godzilla, like there's like a shit ton of them. Like I've seen the artwork. Like it's just assumptions that fans have just because of the concept art that's leaked. Like no one knows what it is.
It really is too bad that Tokyo SOS underperformed. So.
I also want to give a nice little detail for the suit for Tokyo SOS, how it's different from the first one because it has all those battle scars from the Absolute Zero cannon.
Well, yeah, I mean the obvious one is the huge like scar on the chest, but yeah,
like that's a nice little detail.
Yeah, and overall
it's the first time we ever actually see like, real damage on a Godzilla suit, really. That isn't because of the suit being destroyed on its own right.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like movie to movie, like this is really the first time we've ever seen, like even in the Heisei era that we're all in continuity with each other, we never really saw any like lasting marks or scars really that carried over movie to movie.
It's very rare for Godzilla to have injuries that carry over. And I know there was that one story that I was telling Mucha about that I really would love to do as like a fan comic one day, of like a story that actually depicts a Godzilla that, does obtain scars over time, because it doesn't really have like the super healing factor that, Toho's tried to establish it having, like you know what I'm saying? Like they were like, oh yeah, like they even gave it the name in Godzilla 2000, the actual name of his healing factor. They never gave it a name until 2000. Think about that. That it's actually called Regenerator G1 now in canon. Supposedly, that's what the regenerative cell in Godzilla is called, Regenerator G1.
Or good sir, Organizer G1, if you go with original Japanese, which I think most of us do.
No, we don't. Regenerator
G1. I know.
When you said that, I'm just like imagining old man Godzilla, like instead of like
my good man, it is Organizer G1.
Like I'm just like imagine like Hugh Jackman as like in a Godzilla suit, and it's old Godzilla just battle scarred and torn. He's just like, another day, another dollar. Shit.
Dying of pancreatic cancer. That's literally what would happen.
No, he's dying of diabetes.
Anyways, though, we have the Kiryu Saga. It's over. It's done. It's kind of interesting. It's very weird. It was still good, and it intended to be like this weird collective to end the Millennium Era with a final film, or at least that's what the producers wanted to originally do. And then we got the 50th anniversary Godzilla Final Wars, which is the only movie to be like another movie to be canon to only the 54 film, and every alliteration of every previous kaiju we see is a brand new take on them. There's a new version of Mothra, a new version of Rodan, a new version of Anguirus. There's a new version of King Caesar, Kamacuras, Kamunga, Manila, Manda, freaking Ebera, Hedera, a new version of Ghidorah, a pre-evolution of Ghidorah, a new version of Gigan, an updated version of Gigan. And there's also freaking Zilla. Of all freaking things, Zilla is in this freaking film. As well as Exilians. There are freaking current day famous actors. There are Toho alumni in there. There's a freaking former UFC champion in the film. And it's just bonkers. I mean, like I said, you got Don Fry, you got King Kosogi, a guy who kind of runs a variety show now, a famous, at the time, hot-ass model and actress who then became a freaking, I think, like, television host or news anchor. And then you have, like, Takarada, Kimi Mizuno, and, like, I think a few other known veteran actors in there, but they're not that apparent because they weren't, a part of the main frickin' role. And pretty much the best way to explain this film is Godzilla's frozen, Earth has to reawaken Godzilla because the Exilians are fucking Earth so bad, and then Godzilla has to run a gauntlet to become the universal goddamn champion. That's literally the best way to explain it. It's like the greatest goddamn underdog story of all time. Because, Godzilla doesn't have any of the goddamn M base in his goddamn DNA, so he can't be controlled by the fucking Exilians. Oh yeah, at the same time we have this weird super soldier kind of weird sci-fi story of that, yeah, there's mutants on this planet, but the way that the mutants work is that they're like more like, not mutants like X-Men mutants, they're like mutants of, oh yeah, they become more like new types, but that can actually be controlled by the goddamn Exilians. It's really confusing, it's really crazy, it's really wonky, and It's just,
really Godzilla.
Yeah, it's just Godzilla. Final Wars. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun.
Get the Alfred immediately.
Exactly. So, let's go with Visibleninja. What's your thoughts on this whole clusterfucky adventure?
I won't even be coy about it. This is just full on, just absolute fan service from beginning to end. Like you said, we have Toho alone. We have Akira Takirada. We have Kimi Mizuno, her name is, I think, isn't it Wheelchair?
Yes, hot ass woman from the old show era. Yes.
Okay, I couldn't really remember. Again, bad with names, but yeah, we've got Ken Kusogi in there, who isn't a huge star, but he is recognizable.
He is recognizable. He's Ninja Black and Ultraman powered. One of those things all of us wish he never was, including actually Ken Kusogi himself.
Yeah, he's not a huge star, but he is recognizable. Then obviously,
the funny thing is technically isn't his father the bigger star?
Yeah.
Sho Kosogi is bigger known in Japan than he is. Is definitely more well known than his son because of all the ninja movies from the 80s. But yeah, Don Fry as Captain Gordon is just one of the biggest badasses ever seen on cinema. Just because the man is just so powerful and such a badass. Which is kind of sad when you consider he shot this either just before or just after he did Not Another Wrestling Romantic Comedy, which is one of the worst movies ever made. So this is not the worst Don Fry movie ever made. So, yeah. Either way, the movie ultimately is a bit shallow just because it is just wall-to-wall fan service. But that doesn't mean that the movie isn't still enjoyable to watch. I mean, there's call-outs, obscure kaiju, Wheelchair alluded to. You have, old school favorites, like Anguirus and Rodan and King Caesar actually appearing after God knows how long. And then you have, lesser-known ones, like Manda, Kamacuras, Ibira showing up. And Ibira actually got a pretty nice-looking redesign, even though he got murked by a Ninja Black with a chain gun. But, that's beside the point. And Godzilla, yeah, he just runs the gauntlet, even, kicking the ass of Zilla in short work because, we got to reference that shitty American movie.
We're all to blame for it after all.
Oh, Sum 41. Yeah. But again, this isn't the deepest Godzilla movie, but I would definitely say it's probably one of the cheesier ones, but that was very obviously intentional. And I will admit, this is disproportionately focused on the humans, But again, it's kind of indicative of the time period, of the kind of high octane, matrixy kind of action movies of the period. So like it kind of falls in place when you consider it like that. But again, it's just fan service. Like if you can kind of, turn off your logical brain and just enjoy all the old shout outs, all the old call outs, and just, just the cheesy awesomeness, this is just an absolutely great movie.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much sums up right there. It's an insane movie. Like, it's like a sugar rush, and once you eat that sugar, your mind's just like at going 100 miles per hour, and you just don't know when it's going to stop. But once you know when you do it's going to stop, you're just going to want a cigarette afterwards just to cool down. Because, Jesus Christ, everything just goes off the rails as soon as shit hits the fans when the ex-aliens are revealed to be, guess what? Evil. Dun, dun, dun. Isn't one of the ex-aliens also called X? Or am I just misremembering?
No, there was
one of them
there's one who's called X, but he's really just a fake guy posing as an ex-alien.
They call me X.
Because I feel like it really, gets across, the kind of shit I'm selling.
That motherfucker hammed up that role though.
Yeah.
Command, like not the old commander, but the new guy commander.
Oh yeah.
Like he hammed up that role. He was like Juggler's Juggler before Juggler's Juggler came to the screen.
He's like, yo, you're our cattle now, so yeah, get used to it.
Get used to it. Like his reaction to like when all the monsters like lose to Godzilla are priceless. He's just like, why?
Well, don't forget, he's like this young gun guy who like literally pulls a coup that pulls off where he takes completely over the entire like organization of the remaining Exilians, and like the thing is, the most unexpected thing that could happen happens, and he has nothing that can stop Godzilla. So he's just freaking out because he's like, oh yeah, everything was supposed to go my way, and now I'm getting butt fucked. But had the old guy, had the old guy that he didn't kill, the original commander, they probably would have been able to actually have a communicative way of coexisting with mankind and eating them as using them as cattle. But you fuck shit up. You try to take over the world a little too soon, and you got the fucking king of the monsters fucking you in the ass.
Yeah, you unfortunately ran into a guy who was crazy enough to go, it'd be a good idea for these ex-aliens to fight against them. Let's just wake up Godzilla, because nothing could possibly...
Well, the entire plan was just a Hail Mary of, hey, most of humanity's fucked already, and technically, if we get Godzilla out, we have somewhat of a small chance of surviving, because Godzilla will just, there won't be enough population left that Godzilla can fuck already, since it's mostly already fucked. So it was like one of those catch-22s. It's like, we're already, not really a human race left, so if Godzilla's trotting around the planet, he can't really, stop us, so all we have to do is just find out where he is and just stay away from him. It's almost like the zombie apocalypse scenario. It's like, you just gotta keep ahead of the zombies or away from the zombies and you're alright. Whereas in this version, it's like, maybe we can live in a world with just Godzilla. Like, that's the only kaiju around, right?
Maybe we can all live with Godzilla if Minya can calm him down.
It fucking worked, though, didn't it?
It did. Also, shout out to Kaiser Ghidorah for getting launched into fucking space.
Got rocked like a motherfucker, did he? He got like cars, but then he blew up.
Yeah, he blew up this time.
And
he didn't wander space to eternity.
And don't forget, Godzilla also blew up Gorath, so...
It's true.
Yeah.
Godzilla is super strong. He destroyed Gorath, which was really the Pokeball for Kaiser Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Essentially. And Monster X is probably he was actually a pretty interesting original kaiju, and I wasn't super on the idea of him just turning into another Ghidorah, but over time I actually kind of like Kaiser Ghidorah now, so
Kaiser Ghidorah is pretty cool.
My favorite aspect still is though when the main protagonist unlocks his new type God mode and fights the Exilian who's in God mode. And while he has him down in a basic UFC, ground and pounds thing, Godzilla also has Monster X on the fucking teleprompter, beating the fuck out of Monster X on the outside in the same exact way. Like, it was literally like they were mimicking each other. I thought that was, one of the most greatest like choreographed fights ever. I'm not gonna lie, a part of me wished that happened in like the Showa era when like the protagonist raided the freaking Simian's base in '74. Like I was expecting to see like what is it, freaking Dr. Sarazawa in that film, who was the scientist that found out about space titanium, jumping the goddamn leader of the Simians and just start pounding ground, beat the fuck out of him, while Godzilla, freaking does a flying Luthez press into Mecha Godzilla. Like, that would have been, oh my god, oh, I would love to have seen that fucking, Hirata just beating up the Simian actor. That would have been fucking glorious.
Oh my god, that'd be epic.
Because, like, Hirata really did action. Like, I think the only time I've ever seen Hirata do, like, straight-on action was in one of the samurai films with Mifune.
So, like, Godzilla Final Wars, basically, 54 happened, and then nonsense occurs.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, the Millennium Era, nothing is really canon to the Millennium Era, except usually the 54 film, unless you're the Kiryu Saga. It's the only one connected to the Showa timeline in multiple degrees, but not in the same regards as being a direct sequel to the Showa timeline. It's kind of like how, like, certain Godzilla movies are like that nexus point to bring timelines together. The Kiryu Saga is what, like, Godzilla vs. Mothra or Ghidorah was in the early eras of the Showa era. And then when you have, like, Destroy All Monsters being, like, that nexus to try to, like, converge them, it was, like, one of those where it's, like, you guys were on parallel universes, and then out of nowhere, Pandora's box opened up and brought these worlds together. Instead of dividing, Japan like it does in Build, it was like, we're gonna merge the timelines. Whee!
Godzilla Wars coming soon to a manga near you.
Godzilla Wars coming out of bankruptcy when Shredmasters returns. Because don't forget, that was actually the title of their fucking toy line. Godzilla Wars! Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo! Space Godzilla!
Yeah.
But anyways, though, this concludes our show. We've pretty much explained the Millennium Timeline the best that we can to you. I mean, it's pretty obvious. We'll have some visuals on the screen, as usual, if you're watching it on YouTube. And if we ever get up it on iTunes, you don't have to worry about it. You can just pretend that you're listening and understanding as you go along. And if you have any questions, you can always hit us up on our official Twitter and or Facebook page to get more tidbits of knowledge of Godzilla facts and history. Anyways, let's go over to Visibleninja for his shameless plugs on how people can contact him and what does he do.
Hey, no problem. You can find me on YouTube at Visibleninja. I host a couple live shows every week. One dedicated to the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise on Mondays, as well as one dedicated to Tokusatsu, Kaiju films, Super Sentai, the like, on Wednesdays. And they are both at 9 p.m. Eastern on their respective days, which is Monday and Wednesday. And, of course, you can find me on Twitter at VisibleNinja0. So check me out, yo.
All right, and as usual, if you're trying to look for myself, Mucha, or Projekt who is not here tonight, you can just go to our, social media contacts down in the description below if you're listening on YouTube or viewing us on YouTube, as well as with Hero Club. Pretty much you'll see how to contact Hero Club at the very end of this video. Anyways, this concludes Godzilla Timelines. Next week will be kind of Super Sentai based, since me and Mucha kind of want to talk about frickin' Super Sentai. So, what are we going to be talking about? We're still undecided, but it will be Super freaking Sentai. Right, Mucha?
Fuck them.
Fuck who, the fans or Super Sentai?
Both.
Okay, we'll see you next time! Hey, it's Wheelchair21, and thanks again for listening to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. If you want to hear more content or see more content from the Hero Club YouTube channel, we're going to need you to subscribe, like, comment with some feedback, and share this channel with a friend. We also would like you to check out our website, hero-club.com, and follow us on various social media outlets just by looking up Hero Club for Life, as well as the stores you see are where we shop. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.